now, really, is in this.
Isn't that funny that there seems to be these jumps? I mean, like, because if you were just a plain Darwinian, you would say that it would be gradual, because you're just, the way we sometimes explain it, we explain it by mutation and selection.
Yes.
Mutation, selection, but in that formula there's really no room for a jump. And some of these Christians that do what they call creation, they say that God created all these different, and they're saying, well, there would be a smooth transition if there was really evolution, so these must be a new kind of species or something. Or what do you say to an argument like that? But it is kind of curious that it jumps in steps.
Yeah, I think you get this 100th monkey effect. You familiar with that?
I've heard about that.
That story. It was taken from some anthropologists working on the islands around Japan in the late 40s, and they were watching a group of monkeys on a small desert island, and realized that the young female monkeys took their sweet potatoes and washed them before they ate them in the river to get rid of the dirt. So quickly after that, the older female monkeys got it, then the young men monkeys, and finally the old men monkeys, who took the longest to make the shift. But simultaneously on another island, the same thing was happening. So there was you get this 100th monkey effect. As soon as 100 monkeys had got it on that small island, it happened in another island. So without any connection. So in that way, when we get to a state of evolutionary consciousness where a certain proportion of us have, say, experienced in some way, directly experienced the truth of our being, then suddenly everyone can get it. And that it only needs this 0.01%, so it only needs 700,000 of us at the moment out of the 7 billion to get that, for the whole 7 billion to get it. So that's how the shifts jump.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting. You know, I've heard about that with the monkeys in the islands, and that, you know, I guess on the one island the monkeys were teaching each other how to do it by imitation, right?
Yeah.
But then when they all were doing it on that island regularly, somehow, without space or time, and there's no telegraph, monkey telegraph or anything, without space or time, if anything, you could say, well, okay, humans were watching them, and they were watching the other animals on the other island, and maybe it passed through the human mindset, because they were saying, oh, look, these guys don't do that. And then they did, you know, but they were picturing it or something. But otherwise, without space and time, somehow there's something else that's like a wormhole or something that doesn't go, you know, where we are connected also there, you know.
But haven't we proved that in physics now? You could explain that better than me, where electron can actually be in electron A and electron... You get electron A and you divide it into A and B, and then they both can have the same elements to them, even though they're totally separated by distance.
Yeah, I've heard of those experiments, you know, a little bit about...
So we know on the molecular level that works, so why shouldn't it work with us? Why would it need to go via human awareness? We're not the only...
It's so tiny compared
beings.
to what we're talking about. I don't know, you know, it's so tiny. I don't believe it. The macro and micro are so far apart when they're talking about physics. That's what gives doubts to me.
Yes, but when you look at if you put the micro and the macro on a scalar graph
yeah.
and actually look and do the I can't express this very well, but actually do the calculate the formula for, you know, take the average, for example, of all stars. So you get the stellar average, and you put it on the graph, and you take the average of all atoms and put it on a graph, and you take Planck's scale and put it on the graph, and you go right out into as far as you can. They're all actually having the same resonance, so they are all linked in with the same energetic pathway.
Yeah. I guess I'm not that qualified to talk about science. I have my ideas, but I don't want to talk too much about. Sometimes I spout it out too, you know, but I admit it, you know. But anyhow, I don't want to make this about me spouting out things I don't know about. But
Yeah, but anyway, I think we will, it will be able to be proved scientifically soon with proper mathematical equations that we are very much all one, and when that is established, then our paradigm of consciousness can shift.
But just by someone telling us, will that be enough?
Well, we all believed the Earth was flat, and then somebody told us, Copernicus told us the Earth was round, and I'm sure it took 100 years before the whole world got it. But nowadays with the internet, it might take a week.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, no, wait a minute. Okay, look, the world was flat, and then the world was round, and then guys went around the Earth and stuff like that. But how did that affect anyone? That didn't really change their consciousness, did it? I mean, the guy on our farm or something, or the guy in the village, or the blacksmith or something, what did he care, flat or round? I'm just making horseshoes.
Yeah, but he probably started feeling, I mean, you and I, for example, we probably don't feel we feel international, no? We don't particularly feel identified with our country, never mind our village.
True.
So we're international, and I also have a strong belief that there are many, many different sorts of civilizations out in the various galaxies. So I'm starting to feel that's a fairly new thing in me, that awareness of how there are many other living species on other planets. So I'm starting to feel like my world barrier is expanding. I'm starting to go a little bit more universal. It's fairly new for me that I'm just a brother and sister of one of millions of different other species in the whole multiverse, out there. So I'm going out again. So, in that same way, just that simple cobbler, he started to realize, wow, well, actually, this whole huge round world, and maybe it expanded him slightly. So, I'm sure it has its subtle effects.
That would be subtle, okay.
Super practical every day, making his shoes.
No, but okay, but we're saying something really more fundamental, because we're saying science could tell us that we're not separate. Yes. And that we have to really change how we behave with other people, all people, and somehow institutionally also we have to include minorities and underprivileged, but somehow
we can't,
and they can't take advantage of it somehow. Somehow that has to be that too, right? Because we had lived in welfare societies, and they never worked either. See, and people just said, even here in Australia, I'll bet you anything, And people have told me about Canada, and they said, well, you get assistance if you're unemployed. And in so many ways that's a good thing, but in so many ways it makes the people very dull. Even in Satsang, people have told me when I go to America, people really want to get up there and really want to explore and find themselves, and when I'm in Canada, they're just kind of laying back and waiting for tomorrow, going to the post office to get their check, So then, I don't know, there's a good part and the bad, there's a human part and then there's a bad part to it. Yeah,
but the thing is, there must be a way to shift society so everyone can be doing what really fulfills them, and that there doesn't need to be 5 billion people who are, struggling for clean water and food every day. And so once we really get in the depths of our beings that we're one, and not just as some sort of ideological concept, then we're going to start acting on that. And so, we won't need to have 50% of the world's wealth in 1% of the people's, actually 40% of the world's wealth in 1% of the people's hands, and 50% of it in 2%. So, things can start, and those people are probably fairly unhappy too. Their money doesn't buy them happiness. So they're not going to be able to sit with that so well, and need to share it. So, there is. So in other words, that wealth is not cherished, and somehow it's not stewarded in a way, because those people are kind of tense and maybe who could. It's hard to generalize, and they're not fully aware that their being is being affected by the hungry lady in Biafra.
Yeah. No, but that's what we do with concepts. Concepts separate us.
But they need to, it needs to be so deeply ingrained that it's part of our being, not just a concept anymore.
Well, I'm just saying it's a concept that we're separate too. Like when I said they deserve it. Okay, in Biafra they deserve it some reason. You know, and we could just say that
I
they're...
don't think you can ever say that,
you know,
those two words. They deserve it.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying you can. I'm just saying that they, those are words that work a lot of magic as far as separating things. And how would you say it? You'd say, well, because their government is corrupt, and it's their government. They do it to themselves. You know, you'd start saying things like that, right? And then you wouldn't feel any pain anymore. You would be insulated. You wouldn't feel.
Yes. Yeah, I just feel like there's got to be a way around it. You know, there's got to be some solution where there is enough resources for everyone on the planet, and how do we work out how to...
Let's go back just to wisdom teaching then, because like that's the ultimate, you know, I don't know, do you like it when I say that? That's the ultimate getting out of the context, right? Because you're even getting out of the context of the manifest world. You're talking about the context of space and potentiality. And so then in that world, I mean, if there's a world that's not equal, that could be made out of potentiality, then in that pure world of potentiality, there's also a world of egalitarian world that could be made out of that. So, I mean, you know, but then the only trick is like, how do I get from here to there? You know, in the manifest world, it seems like so many things have to shatter in order to make that happen, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes the old does need to shatter to allow the space for the new to come in. You know? So we can actually celebrate if some old systems start shattering, because it does allow space for the new to come in.
I think we have to watch it, because, you know, it's easy to say, well, if something shatters, I can celebrate that too. Okay, that's one thing, and that's very pure and very wise. But if you're just saying, oh, I'm going to be laissez-faire, I'm going to be hands-off, or I'm not going to try to correct this situation, I'm going to somehow just ignore it, and then I'll just say, see, I told you so. It's not really a very good contribution, just to say I was a prophet. You know, why weren't you there working to try to organize or something? I'm not saying you know, of course, I think you are organizing, so that, but yeah, I'm just talking about...
The great prophets had, I mean, they're the only names that live on, you know, 2,500 years, you're still talking about Buddha, you know, so they had some amazing impact on the well-being and happiness of many people, or we wouldn't still remember them.
No, I'm not talking about prophets. I'm just saying, if all you do is ignore problems, and then when they fire up, when they collapse, you say, I knew it all along, I told you so, then you're a little prophet. You're setting yourself up as like, you know, I'm just saying that's the best you could do to contribute. You just say, I told you so.
Yes.
But you can't be there to really try to
but I think there is a place for those amongst us who want to be just quiet and not doing anything, and just being in their metaphorical cave or living. But then we don't need them to come out afterwards and say, I told you so. No, that's not their role. Their role is just to be, and that has a great role. You know, it's not everyone. Doesn't have to be out there.
Proactive.
Yeah. No, there's space for it all. There's room for all of us. But I do think it's important times at the moment that as many of us that can be proactive as possible do.